This then is the silver weekly chart, and it's very interesting. We're trapped. Price action for the last 2 weeks has been trapped between these two very long-term diagonal lines that go all the way back through all of this price action, catching these lows, catching this high, this low, going all the way back, a long, long, long way. I got a rail of 3 running through all this nonsense that's got a decent fit to it. Look at it capture this low, look at it capture this high, look at it capture this high, look at it capture this low, this high, and so on and so on. So it's capturing all sorts of key points quite far out and continuously across, decades. So the fact that we're now between these two is interesting, because that gives us a sort of above good, below bad, if-then scenario. In terms of this low here, this was the plunge below these lows connected by this purple trend line here. I suppose that was the auction, that was the deviation. Potentially, I mean, there's still all the rest of this candle down here that's very flimsy in terms of unfilled, uncongested price action down to 1940, 1950 at least, and in practice, probably this is the last real congestion area here, down closer to 1850. But in any case, the fact that we have this auction below these lows, we've recovered, we've tested the top band, tested the bottom band and pulled away. Well, it puts us in no man's land, but the last thing we did was test the bottom band. So either we're going to go, in my opinion, I think, retest up this top area and break out of it. Is what I'd be looking for, I think, at this point. I've not tried duplicating this line yet and seeing if it fits anywhere else, so let's do that. Does it fit nicely anywhere else? On these lows, it's just not really cutting the mustard. Sort of a little bit, but not really. Not enough for me. Yeah, sort of doing the same as this fib line here though. It's not doing anything that an other line isn't already doing. Just so we've got a mirror image at the top and the bottom, I'll pop it on top of this wick here, even though it's not doing anything especially interesting. We've already got a bunch of lines up in this area anyway, but we'll leave that there for the sake of symmetry. Let's go down to the daily chart. So there was the big auction, the big plunge below all these supports. We came right into the long-term 50% fib. Under this slightly less long-term 70%. Under this middle channel line, which was also the left and the right on the inverse head and shoulders. It was the left and the right shoulder. It got tapped this both times. That middle yellow rail of the 3 long-term yellow rails we were looking at on the weekly. It got tapped again here, and we got a reaction strongly to the upside into immediate short-term resistance. We want to see price stay over whatever this is, 2161, which is a key level going back ages. So that's where we are in silver, and I say it's time for silver to go to the moon. Because I would find that emotionally and financially satisfying, so that is of course my own wishful thinking. Anyway, 6 hours, that's what it looks like. Yeah, but you won't see this move continue more or less immediately, or be very, again, pull back, stay above 2162, 2160, something like that. It'd be nice if it could continue ASAP to the upside. Go all the way down to the hourly. We don't want this to be rolling over action, we want this to be flagging action, and then further up is what we want. You can see this low on the hourly. There's positive divergence on both our indicators here. Stocks, I'm short. I'm short from here, 4,023-ish. I should have been short from up here, but never mind. I'm still a little bit scared of shorting. I mean, even though I came to the conclusion months ago, I mean, on the Nasdaq, I was saying around November, December time, I think it's topping out here. But I've not really been shorting the indices because of my obsession with silver, going long silver, and also the fact that I was trying to short the indices up in like the summer of and the autumn of 2020, and so on and so on. I got so burned. I shorted after the COVID crash, started recovering, and then it turns out the recovery was to new all-time highs. I was trying to short most of that, and that's burned me emotionally. So I've been hesitant to short, even though I knew that was the right and obvious and clear thing to do during all this nonsense. But hopefully there's still plenty more downside to come, because whoop, there we go. There's the weekly. You can see top, 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 bottom, bottom, bottom. We've pivoted around it, we've tanked back under it, and we should be plunging now, at least down to the next rail at 3,600, 35, mid 3,500s, or even lower, even lower. We're going to come out and take these lows, or at least come into this pivot here. That's 32, high 3200s, 3300s. That'd be nice. So weekly, and we've seen these sort of instant reversal candles where you have all plunge black, rocket blue. This could all be eaten up in a second with a swooning move to the upside. Daily. But the thing is, we've tested this whole VWAP area here. These are very important VWAPs. We've tested it a bunch of times here. We've got the move back up into resistance. We've failed at resistance. We've dumped out very aggressively. And can it support it? Can it withstand another attack? We've already had these three down here, and we've got this out of it. What kind of strength is left here from buyers, basically? Only a recovery above this diagonal black trend line, I think, would convince me to flip long at this point. Any pullback up to these levels, I would see as another opportunity to get more short, if I'm completely honest. If you think we're going from channel top to channel bottom, then we're going to come down to 37, 68, something like that. If that's all you think is going to happen, if this is, a bull flag on the daily somehow, it's not impossible. We're not going to come into these demand areas. You think, well, it's another hit on the channel lows, fake everyone out under these VWAPs, and then whoop, off we go, new bull market, 5,000 by the autumn. That would be your view, I suppose. If you have a look at the Nasdaq, yeah, you can. It's clear on the Nasdaq. These very longs, because it was all this nonsense up here. It was all this up here had me calling this is a market top, because we've hit my very long-term fib channels lines 100%, and then it's fitting everything so well on the longer time frames in terms of it's hitting key pivots all over the place. Not every time, obviously, but on the way down it's been fairly spectacular. Here, pause, here, bounce, down, here, back here, hitting over and over and over again. If we're done with this fib level at 12,000, the next one down is 10,500. If we're going to keep bouncing between fib levels and testing new ones further down, that's the logical next place to go. And of course, where was rejection? It was at this long-term fib channel here. Let's go up to the weekly. Let's do everything in the wrong order. That's how it looks on the weekly. Spectacular retest and dump. We could dump out, I think. You've got a sort of double support here on this long-term yellow trend line, plus the long-term fib channel line here at 9,000. So it's possible. One doesn't want to get too excited at any time for any reason. Gold and silver. So I've done silver. Is the euro picking up a little bit? No, it's dumping. Because what was interesting was treasuries continue to dump. This is the treasury ETF. Dump, 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 dump. Rates rising. Look at that. Look at that. Thing of beauty. Hideous beauty. But beauty. What a dump out. Anyway, we're coming down into this this whole supply-demand area, pivot area here. This goes back all the way to 2008. So maybe we'll get a pause, a relent in all this crazy action, or maybe we'll go shockingly deeper. Who knows? But anyway, so bonds dumping out. The other interesting thing was happening at the same time. Dollar going to new highs, sort of. I mean, not as high as early mid-May, but dollar going up, but silver and gold also going up, at least in the very short term after that deviation in the auction below those lows, below the old price floor. Is that a good sign for gold and silver? Well, maybe. Fuck knows what happens here. I'd be tempted to sell because you've got this double resistance on one of these duplicate diagonal purple trend lines that fitted in the past, so we're seeing if it fits again, and this horizontal area here. Let's go down to a lower time frame. What do we think? Yeah, possibly. You've got your negative divergence here. Double resistance. Maybe worth a sell. That would pour fuel on the fire. Uranium, we've bounced at this very important long-term fib, which goes all the way back on the monthly. There it is. All the way back to the all-time highs of this ETF, this uranium ETF. We're hanging around this level a lot. We've retraced 11.4% of this long-term catastrophic non-stop plunge drama in uranium, this decade-long plunge. So we've recovered above, we've nearly recovered a quarter of that price, but then we're back to recovered 11.4% of that price. And we don't want to lose this pivot, really. I mean, maybe we're coming back down here, but you don't want to. If uranium's going to start recovering and being an epic run asset, then that's not really what you want to be seeing. But anyway, it's come down to that support level here. So if I was going to be in this, I would be buying. Is there anything else worth looking at? Bitcoin. Bitcoin's very exciting, isn't it? So we've not quite come under these lows back from, again, that sort of early mid-May period, but apparently crypto crash is trending. It was worse here. We were lower here. We were at 25k. We've recovered above this very important monthly trend line. The moment we go back below this, I would be selling every micro bounce on every lower time frame. That's about 27,790. Is there anything else worth looking at? Yeah, well, internals and that sort of thing. NIOD, terrible day, but this thing is erratic and it can recover that in one go. Doesn't pay to pay too much attention to it. NIAD, yeah, moving with price, down. Rinia, you see the negative divergence here. That's why I wish I'd gone short in this congestion. Clear negative divergence. Reversing in the area that used to be the test area for uptrends, recoveries. Reversing now. Doing the opposite of what it used to, bearish behaviour. NAHL, a little tease above the zero, but stayed negative, and then big negative move. So all of this is telling us we ought to be biased towards selling. Reverse divergence in percent of stocks above the 50. Higher high on the indicator, lower high on price, and of course has dumped out to extreme lows. That's the issue with these things being at extreme lows. You might, there's reason enough for a bounce, or it can get more extreme. Silver against stocks, it's looked like crap forever. Is this sort of recovering now? We've tested this, pivoted enough, and we're going to recover. Who knows? Silver against bonds. Well, here was bonds crapping out. Bonds bounced ever so slightly, and they've crapped out enormously since. And silver's still not doing better than here. It's still not doing better than here. It's still not doing better than here. So even though bonds have absolutely collapsed, silver is still not doing great. It's not in the basement, subterranean down here, but it's still nothing special at all. Room to go. Silver against gold, spike down, retesting these lows. Apparently when things get really bad, silver appreciates relative to gold and the ratio between them closes up. Silver against commodities in general. We've got a momentum divergence, but silver actually made a new low against commodities in general. This is somewhat weighted towards oil, I think, but even so, it's absolutely shat its pants. And it's moved up these last few days. It's barely improved its ratio in anything. Again, either this is a sign of total doom for silver, or there's an enormous amount of fuel in the rocket. Especially now everyone's given up on silver completely, and it's beyond a joke. I nearly gave up on it, so that's usually when things turn. Should we have a look at natural gas, just on the daily? Natural gas is a lot better for trading on the lower time frames. Like if you go down to the 4 hour and just, like look at this setup here. I found in retrospect, in hindsight. Let's call it quits there. Let's call it quits.